family, thank you so much for tuning in. I am ordained metaphysical minister reporting live. You know, Frankie Beverly and Mays, and RIP to the brother Frankie Beverly, had a song, We Are One. I really do hope by the end of this presentation that we have more of that feeling towards each other on planet Earth by the time this video ends. Now, I gotta be honest with you, my beautiful family. As of yet, I don't know the name of this title, so you'll be seeing it for the first time. We're about to take a field trip, my family. We're about to take a field trip. For those who have been on field trips with me, you know that our field trips are time traveling field trips. So we're about to take a field trip. So if you need something to eat, grab something right quick. If you need to meditate, go ahead and do that. If you need to medicate, whatever you need to do, but you are about to go to a time traveling field trip with the ordained minister, Minister Corbin. Of course, you are now in tune to the Cosmic Christ University. For this presentation, the university will be a bus. Where are we going, you may ask? Well, if you watch the last presentation when I was talking about Astrology 101, I told you that we're going to be taking a trip through certain ages. The first one's going to be the Aries. So shout out to my Aries, zodiac sign Aries. You're going to learn a little bit more about yourself today. The next presentation after that, because today we're going to focus on the age or the precession of Aries, the time of Abraham. So this is going to be an amazing field trip. And after Aries, we're going to visit Pisces. Pisces is the age we're currently leaving. We are saying goodbye to Pisces as we speak. And finally, we're going to take a time traveling trip to the age of Aquarius. That is the age that we're about to head to now. Each video is going to be dedicated to that precession. Today is going to be Aries. It's going to be a hell of a presentation. It's going to be a wonderful presentation. I have bottles of water on deck, so it's really going to be good. You're going to learn, just like you've been learning as you've been watching this university, and I thank you for watching, staying tuned in. You're going to learn how spiritual you are. Each video is going to bring you to your spiritual truth, that you are the gods and goddesses now. How about that? Each video the minister has been giving you has been bringing you closer and closer to your truth. That you are your ancestors now, guys. Ladies. You are the gods and goddesses roaming this planet now. How does that make you feel? It's a lot of responsibility, I know. So, as always, I want to thank you, each and every one of you, especially to my family who enroll, or as you may call it, subscribe. We are family here. For the ones who enrolled, they know they can come here anytime they want to on their own accord and get some spiritual truth. We're turning this university into a bus today, and we're going to take a time traveling trip because, like I tell you, I am the son of Mrs. Frizzle. So before I get started with this wonderful presentation, I want to make sure everybody on the bus is good. I'm telling you, I'm not paying for no meals, so make sure you eat before we take this field trip. If you need to meditate, to make sure that you are in line and prepare for this presentation, to do that as well. And if you want to medicate, throw something in the air or whatever you got to do, then do that. But we're about to take this field trip. 4 minutes, guys, we're going in, and we're about to take this field trip. So I'm going to get ready. All right. Get my water. And I always do this saying. I say, for shizzle my nizzle, I'm the son of Mrs. Frizzle. Because obviously one of my favorite animated shows that I learned so much about and learned so much off of was obviously the Magic School Bus. So we're about to time travel. We're about to hit the age of Aquarius. So you're about to understand the importance of our oneness. We are all unified by the power of the one source who you call God, the great architect, the almighty, whatever you want to call it. We all come from that same royal lineage. So what we're going to learn today is the ancestors as a spiritual humanity group on this planet what they had to go through. That's what we're going to learn today. So I thank you so much for your patience. Are you ready? Everybody's good now. You can pause this and do what you got to do, but we're about to get started. Everybody good? We're on the bus. All right. Here we go. The shizzle, my nizzle. I am the son of Mrs. Frizzle. All right. The age of Aries. Tribal power. All 12 signs of the zodiac are associated with one of the major elements. I repeat, everybody. All 12 of the zodiacs are associated with one of the major elements: fire, earth, air, or water. I'm thinking Captain Planet 2, but let's keep on going. I'm thinking Captain Planet 2, but let's keep on going. You need to hear this. All 12 signs of the zodiac are associated with one of the major elements: fire, earth, air, or water. Aries is a fire sign, and fire is the element associated with taking action. The characteristics associated with Aries are creativity, leadership, loyalty, motivation, and the capacity to initiate new beginnings. People born under the signs of Aries. Now, listen, if I have any Aries watching, hit the like button. Represent your zodiac. If I have any Aries tuning in right now, hit the like button. People born under the sign of Aries by nature have, and I quote, a can do attitude. It was during the age of Aries that tribal culture was organized, in which the focus of human consciousness was directed toward developing unified tribal communities to achieve physical survival. Stop there right quick. This whole presentation is about the age of Aries. We are now approaching a new age, my beautiful people. This is the age of Aquarius. When you hear people say that we are our ancestors, when you hear people say that we are our ancestors, that's because we were. We are. We're back there in the age of Aquarius. A lot of us have reincarnated just to celebrate and just to be in the age of Aquarius because of the things we went through in them other ages. We had to see. We had to make it here. Through all the other ages that we went through together as a human consciousness. That's why I say we are multidimensional. But I want to go ahead and keep focus on this presentation. And thank you. Let's read that again, please. People born under the sign of Aries by nature have a, and I quote, a can-do attitude. It was during the age of Aries that tribal culture was organized, in which the focus of human consciousness was directed toward developing unified tribal communities to achieve physical survival. The goal was to achieve group strength and physical endurance, and to master the external components of life. It was an age not of emotional or psychological introspection, but of learning to manage external challenges. Like I told you guys, I'm going to give you Aries, I'm going to give you Pisces, I'm going to give you Aquarius. But I have to, now that I know what I know about the Taurus age or the Taurian age, we have to see what we left, the consciousness that we were leaving behind in Taurus, to see the new consciousness that was being prepared for us, as we just heard, in the age of Aries, or Aries, of Aries. This is very important because I'm going to read this again. This is what we just left. You can hear it, and this is what we just left in the age of Taurus. So I'm going to read this again. It was during the age of Aries that tribal culture was organized, in which the focus of human consciousness was directed toward developing unified tribal communities to achieve physical survival. The goal was to achieve group strength and physical endurance, and to master the external components of life. It was an age not of emotional or psychological introspection, but of learning to manage external challenges. In Taurus, and we'll get to a presentation of Taurus. What in just a brief words, Taurus was the age of the divine worship, the divine feminine worship. It was it was idol worship in many ways of different gods and goddesses. So when we reached the age of Aries, it was the end of that and the beginning of something new, and we're about to read that. So thank you so much for your patience. Let's keep on. The new patterns of consciousness that began with each astrological age serve as that age ground rules. The age of Taurus, the 2,000-year period that preceded the Aryan age, represented a much cruder form of tribal culture without the organizing force of structure laws in many parts of the world, and particularly by the part that gave rise to the Western spiritual heritage. During the age of Taurus, sacrifice, including human sacrifice, was viewed as a means of appeasing the wrath of God. And I think I remember a movie back there. Hit the like button if you remember this movie. I think it was called Apocalypto. I think it was a Mel Gibson movie. But hit the like button, or if you remember that movie, leave a comment. But yeah, back in those days, I think we're talking, and maybe I know as far as the Mel Gibson movie, I'm thinking Mayans. I'm thinking as far as what Mel Gibson was portraying, maybe the Aztecs, around that generation. So this is probably what we're looking at in the age of Taurus. But I'm gonna do a presentation. Right now we're focused on Aries. Once again, the new patterns of consciousness that began with each astrological age serve as that age's ground rules. The age of Taurus, the 2,000-year period that preceded the Aryan age, represented a much cruder form of tribal culture without the organizing force of structural laws in many parts of the world, and particularly by that part that gave rise to the Western spiritual heritage. That's us on the Western side. During the age of Taurus, sacrifice, including human sacrifice, was viewed as a means of appeasing the wrath of God. But at the dawn of the age of Aries, Abraham, we know in the Bible definitely about Abraham, the father of it all. The father of it all, the father of humanity, is what Abraham is known as, is most in the religions. The father of it all. So we're about to really hear some truths in this presentation. Before we go in, I want you to really think about this and understand why I said we are one and why Frankie Beverly knew it. I don't care what color we are. Once you know the truth about what color who is first, that's something we have to deal with as a people. But we are all here on this planet in these astrological ages to evolve. Once we evolve, us as one can now vibrate into higher vibrations. And then when new planets come, new civilizations, we become the ascending masters because we've been through exactly what they've been through, this new planet. H.P. Belansky and them said there are two more root races to come after ours. We're in the Aryan root race, if you let H.P. Belansky and others tell it. We're in the Aryan root race. So our job is to understand that love is all. That's the whole thing. Learn how to love one another without war, without hating you because of your race, and without hating you because of your... You get what I'm saying? It has to die. Once it dies, then because our consciousness, our unified consciousness as a people on this planet has graduated, then we graduate. And this planet is about to graduate. And the ones who have reached that level, it's a beautiful thing once you realize who you are to those watching. But let's keep on going. During the age of Taurus, sacrifice, including human sacrifice, was viewed as a means of appeasing the wrath of God. But at the dawn of the age of Aries, Abraham, from the Bible, Abraham received instructions from Yahweh. Now, I know you heard the name Yahweh, but I have a very special presentation along the road that we need to be introduced to Yahweh Christ, which is a true name of the one who is coming now, the one who is here. But that's another story. But let's keep on going. And it spells Yahveh. Yes, we heard of Yahweh, but Yahweh, Yahveh. If you have pen and pad, write this down. Yahweh, Yahveh. We're going to talk about that to my students and masters who are enrolled. We're going to have an amazing presentation down the road on that. But let's focus on the Aries age today. Abraham received instructions from Yahweh to Abraham received instructions from Yahweh to found the nation of Israel, to found it, be the founding member of the nation of Israel, according to the book of Genesis in the Bible. And so the patriarch of the Jewish people came into being. Prior to the formation of the nation of Israel, the iterant Hebrews had lived similarly to the Canaanite, practicing animal and human sacrifice. Abraham in the Bible was alive long enough to see one age die and one age rise, and he was the man in the middle to usher the new age in. At 15 minutes, I want to make sure we are at an understanding of that. Yahweh, who you know God's name is, and we're being spelled now Yahweh, Yahveh, called Abraham in the Bible to be the founder of the nation of Israel, according to the book of Genesis in the Bible. And so the patriarchy of the Jewish people came into being. This is also very important because if you watch my presentation about Hitler equates a certain people with Abraham, and he calls those people aliens, not from this planet. That's another presentation too. So let's keep on going. Once again, Yahweh, Abraham received instructions from Yahweh to be the founder of the nation of Israel, according to the book of Genesis in the Bible. And so the patriarchy of the Jewish people came into being. Prior to the formation of the nation of Israel, the iterant Hebrews, and that's Itinerant, Hebrews had lived similarly to the Canaanite, practicing animal and human sacrifice. Considering how commonly human sacrifice occurred then, it would not have been unexpected for Yahweh to instruct Abraham to sacrifice his only son. I want to stop there. Considering how commonly human sacrifice occurred, then it would not have been expected for Yahweh to instruct Abraham to sacrifice his son. But keep in mind, with the forming of the nation of Israel, we were leaving one age that was all about human sacrifices and animal sacrifices into this new age, the Aries age, and this new nation, who still, no matter what, tested Abraham in the style of the old ways. And if you're with me, hit the like button. So let's continue going on. Considering how commonly human sacrifice occurred then, it would not have been unexpected for Yahweh to instruct Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. As Abraham and Isaac prepared for the sacrificial altar, Isaac was perplexed because he could not see what would be offered to God by his death. Abraham told his son, and I quote, God would provide himself the lamb for the burnt offering. Quote, end quote. After the altar was in place, Abraham bound his son, laid Isaac upon the altar, and prepared to slay him with a knife. An angel appeared to Abraham and stopped him, saying, and I quote, do not slay. Do not lay a hand on that lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, because you did not withhold your son, your only son, from me. Quote, end quote. Knowing what we know about ancient aliens and what we as experienced UFO knowers know about the alien talk or whatnot, we're talking God, we're talking angels. We have to really reevaluate the God talk and the angel talk. Knowing what we know now about extraterrestrials, what we know about Atlantis, what we know about Lemuria, what we know about the Anunnaki, Enki, and Enlil. These gods, seeing that this man was really fitting to kill his son. The Reed loyalty was on 100. His son could, dad, like, yo, dad, I don't understand how killing me is going to make this make sense, but I mean, I am your son, whatever, I guess, you know? So let's read that all again so we're all on one page, but we're getting somewhere with this. Now that we have knowledge and we have a higher consciousness, we can kind of make this make sense, is what I'm saying, in our own way. So let's bring this back, and I thank you for your patience. Considering how commonly human sacrifice occurred then, it would not have been unexpected for Yahweh to instruct Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. As Abraham and Isaac prepared for the sacrificial altar, Isaac was perplexed because he could not see what would be offered to God by his death. Abraham told his son, listen, God will provide himself the lamb for the burnt offering. After the altar was in place, Abraham bound his son, laid Isaac upon the altar, and prepared to slay him with his knife. An angel appeared to Abraham and said, saying, do not lay a hand on that lad or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, because you did not withhold your son, your only son, from me. Abraham then looked up and saw a ram caught in a bush, and he offered it to God in lieu of his son. This is Genesis 22. Let's keep going. This famous episode is traditionally taught in Sunday school as a test of Abraham's obedience to God's will. Church people, can we agree or can we not agree? I'm going to read this again because what I'm going to say is going to go somewhere, and I hope all church, congregation, theologians, whatever you are, listen up closely. And even if you're not a church person, still listen up closely. Once again, this famous episode that we just heard, that you just heard me break down, this famous episode is traditionally taught in Sunday school as a test of Abraham's obedience to God's will. But its symbolic meaning is far more significant. In metaphorical terms, the story tells us that humanity had evolved to a position of greater authority with God, such that human sacrifice was no longer required to please God or gain atonement. On yet another level, the shift away from, and I quote, sacrificial consciousness suggests that human awareness had expanded sufficiently that humanity itself saw a new greater value in human life. Stop playing with me. Church people, theologians, this is why I said welcome all to the age of Aquarius and to this quantum world. There were things that were withheld with us, things that were withheld for many reasons. Don't mind the train, it's what it does. But one of the biggest reasons was because our consciousness was not at a level to accept the fact that we were greater. When we look back 2,000 years ago into the age of Pisces, which will be our next video, you will see that a man, an earthly man, was embedded with the spirit from God, the Christ consciousness, to awaken the people at that time that they were greater. After he left, there was another impulse, a negative impulse, that tried to do everything that Christ did. And as we can see, there was a lot of success. But now in this age of Aquarius, divinity cannot be stopped. The bad guys are about to be punished severely. Listen again. The famous episode that we just talked about Abraham and sacrificing his son, listen to this. This famous episode is traditionally taught in Sunday school as a test of Abraham's obedience of God. See, that is called esoteric. In church, you got the esoteric part of Abraham's story, but you were never taught the esoteric. Once again, exoteric. EXOTERIC. That's what you were given in church. Knowledge that was meant for the masses. But even most of your theologians, because they dare not to read other books and dare not to go deeper into realms like metaphysics to understand what Christ was really saying and that there were deeper meanings to his story. That you would need the esoteric. That is esoteric. Knowledge that is only meant for a chosen few. So you were given a story that, and the lesson behind that story that you still teach in your church is Abraham's obedience to God. But symbolically, because remember, they also said that Abraham was an allegory. Now you know what the allegory meant. They said Abraham was an allegory story in the Bible. Now you, my beautiful family, you know what it means. And I'm going to read that one more time, if you don't mind, so we can all be on one accord with this. And I thank you, as always, for your patience. But let's listen one more time. This famous episode is traditionally taught in Sunday school as a test of Abraham's obedience to God's will, but its symbolic meaning is far more significant. In metaphorical terms, the story tells us that humanity had evolved to a position of greater authority with God, such that human sacrifice was no longer required to please God or gain atonement at one. On yet another level, the shift away from, and I quote, sacrificial consciousness, quote unquote, suggests that human awareness has expanded. Keep that in mind. Human awareness had expanded sufficiently that humanity itself saw a new greater value in human life. Let's keep on going. Our ancestors realized that God had never required human sacrifice. What did our ancestors realized that God had never required human sacrifice. The practice was a reflection of the lesser value that humankind had placed on life as subjects of external God that they felt they needed to placate. Family at 26 minutes. I thank the ones who take the time out their busy schedule to listen to what the minister's saying, and the ones who hit the like button who know that this is spiritually their reward for all the hardships and bullcrap and stress that you say that you were going through when really it was initiation to put you in higher realms, which we are now standing in now. That's what the Cosmic Christ University is, physically and astrologically. It's that. It's your home to gain all the access. It's the Akashi records. The Cosmic Christ University is the Akashi records in real time. Listen to this, my beautiful. Our ancestors realized that God had never required him. Let me read this again. Our ancestors realized that God had never required human sacrifice. The practice was a reflection of the lesser value that humankind had placed on life as subjects of an external God that they felt they needed to placate. And that's Placate. Racism, no. Sexism, no. Jealousy, hatred, bias, no. Can you imagine going on 30 minutes here now, family? If all these things were demolished, gone, alleviated, we're going to see then beings coming from inner worlds back onto this planet in abundance. We're going to see our cosmic ancestors reappear in abundance. You're going to start seeing the elementals, the gnomes, the salamanders, the nymphs. Hit the like button if you know what I'm talking about. You're going to see those come in abundance because now our consciousness, you're talking about mermaids and dragons, but your mind is focusing on who won Oscars, on how you're going to get these bills paid. How can you? Our consciousness went to a lower vibration, is what I'm saying, family. We were there. Mermaids, gnomes, inner worlds, yes. Antarctica, yes. The pyramids, what's underneath the pyramid, yes. Paul, I know, yes, I'm right there with you. I was in Cairo in 2019. Beautiful place. Cairo, Egypt. But if we do not start to love each other in a unified consciousness and leave duality alone. We're done with duality. My church people watching, what evil are you talking about when the God in your Bible says, I create all things, good and evil? But yet you look beyond that and don't understand what that means. Then you go to Christ in the New Testament. Christ says, resist not evil. But yet still, everything is devil evil with you. You're not understanding that God is good. Watch what I do here, then I'm going to go continue on with this presentation. Watch what I do here. Good, evil. Let me take one word out of good. What do we have? God. Evil. Let me add a D. What do we have? Devil. Let's keep on going. Every word is a spell. Our ancestors realized that God had never required human sacrifice. The practice was a reflection of the lesser value that humankind had placed on life as subjects of an external God that they felt they needed to placate. Same thing going on now. Following this sacrifice, God told Abraham that his descendants would give birth to the nation of Israel. Sacrifice shifted from an act of appeasement to a sealing of a covenant with God and an expression of gratitude to the heavens. Yet the idea of sacrifice as a means through which guilt is pardoned and holiness restored remains powerful within human consciousness even today. I am going to read that back. I want to hear that again. Following, and let's listen closely. Following the sacrifice, God told Abraham that his descendants would give birth to the nation of Israel. Sacrifice shifted from an act of appeasement to a sealing of a covenant with God and an expression of gratitude to the heavens. Yet and still, family, the idea of sacrifice as a means through which guilt is pardoned and holiness restored remains powerful within human consciousness even today. We are still heavily influenced by the belief that the mind of God can be swayed by sacrifice. Till this day. Let's keep on going. Abraham is believed to have lived around 2000 BC at the dawn of the age of Aries and a new order of power for the Hebrew people. His grandson Jacob had 12 sons, from whom came the 12 tribes of Israel, which is a correspondence to the 12 signs of the zodiac. Midway through the Aryan Age, probably around 1200 BC, Moses led the Jews from Egypt back to the Promised Land in a journey symbolic of uniting the Hebrew people in their faith in the one God. The Ten Commandments and other tribal laws emerged and formed the bias, The Ten Commandments and other tribal laws emerged and formed the basis for what is meant to be a Jew. Once again, the Ten Commandments and other tribal laws emerged and formed the basis for what is meant to be a Jew. And I feel like I need to repeat that one more time. The Ten Commandments and other tribal laws emerged and formed the basis for what it meant to be a Jew. Tribal consciousness, quote unquote, was molded into a sense of genuine identity and order. The Hebrew scriptures were also written under Aries. I keep saying Aries, but that's another reason why. We'll talk about that in the Council of Nicaea, 325 AD. But anyway, tribal consciousness was molded into a sense of genuine identity and order. The Hebrew scriptures were also under Aries, with frequent reference to the covenants with God and the sacrificial lambs used to seal them. Under Aries, tribal consciousness became more sophisticated, not only for the Jews, but also for the Greeks, Romans, Egyptians, and other cultures of that time. Tribal identity and a sense of nationality belonging to a single nation rather than just a clan or a tribe became prominent. I don't even think they were dealing with race like that, and to a certain degree. Now, were they dealing with race? I do believe, but we're hearing here that everything was a tribe. Everything, actually, I know they weren't dealing with race back then. We would have to go to the Yakub stories and certain stories like that to even reach that conclusion. So let's keep on going again. And I thank you truly for your patience. Let's read this one more time. Under Aries tribal consciousness, Under Aries, tribal consciousness became more sophisticated not only for the Jews, but also for the Greeks, the Romans, Egyptians, and other cultures of that time. Tribal identity and a sense of nationality belonging to a single nation rather than just a clan or a tribe became prominent. The theme of the age of Aries in tribal culture was dominance and authority over the external environment. The natural sciences, laws, and even the Roman system of roads all sprang out of tribal consciousness. The earliest tribal religions worshiped gods who were more or less identified with nature. And so most tribal superstitions are designed to try to manage the temperament of the gods by not getting heaven angry, by not getting heaven angry. Once again, the earliest tribal religions worshiped gods who were more or less identified with nature, and so most tribal superstitions are designed to try to manage the temperament of the gods by not getting heaven angry. Furthermore, the fearful belief that are inherited in tribal consciousness remain among the most influential in present day thinking. One reason may be that they are just so ancient that they are almost genetically programmed in human consciousness. That makes me think of when our grandmom and grandpa was like, listen, when it's lightning, you better cut that TV off, unplug everything, Certain things that have been so embedded within us for so long within our ancestry, our lineage, our consciousness, that it's just been there for so long. Kind of hard to get rid of. Tribal laws Tribal laws during this age sought to control people's behavior to facilitate physical survival. I can already see and feel where we're about to head towards to in the Piscean age. Tribal laws during this age sought to control people's behavior to facilitate physical survival. The laws given to Moses in the book of Exodus define appropriate tribal responsibilities from diet to sexual behavior to responsibility for one's family. These responsibilities correspond to the patterns of consciousness of the first, second, and third chakras, which are those most closely aligned to family, money, power, sex, and self esteem. Even today, tribal cultures of the Middle East and the Mediterranean rim preserve an emphasis on codes of honor and shame. The personality attributed to Yahweh at the time was imbued with human characteristics of the highest ideas, which Hebrew law aimed to promote and emulate. The personality of God was an extension of human nature. If we are loving, then God must be all loving. If we are a people of honor and justice, then God must be the ultimate just being. In the book of Exodus, Yahweh describes himself as a God of justice, law, and order to a jealous and vengeful God. He demands loyalty and admits to operating according to a material system of reward and punishment. Hebrew law sought to manage jealousy, vengefulness, and the need for justice, all of which are affinities of the first three chakras. Many people still believe, not rationally, but in their tribal gut, quote unquote, that God rewards good behavior financially and punishes negative behavior the same way. Some of you watching this still think that way, whether you want to admit that it's a wrong way of thinking or not. Before we can even talk about race, because we can go back to Lemuria and Atlantis on that one. But remember, we fell then. So these are people in this age who can't even remember that they were spiritually in Atlantis, in Lemuria. So they were just starting from scratch all over again. So they created their God based off of the way that they were living, based off of this new consciousness that has been given to them. Remember, before that, it was just human sacrifices to please God and animal sacrifices to please God. Now they're awakened to a new consciousness. And now with this new consciousness, they're trying to figure everything out, get a feel for everything. You got some people whose consciousness is higher, want to dictate, enslave, and control people. They're trying to figure it out. They created their God themselves. The personality attributed to Yahweh at this time was imbued with human characteristics of the highest ideals which Hebrew law aimed to promote and emulate. The personality of God was an extension of human nature. If we are loving, then God must be all loving. If we are a people of honor and justice, then God must be the ultimate just being. In the book of Exodus, Yahweh describes himself as a God of justice, law, and order, a jealous and vengeful God. He demands loyalty and admits to operating according to a material system of reward and punishment. Hebrew law sought to manage jealousy, vengefulness, and the need for justice, all of which are affinities of the first three chakras. Many people still believe, not rationally, but in their tribal gut, that God rewards good behavior financially and punish negative behavior the same way. I ain't got too many pages left for y'all, but yep, not too long. So we'll have this done before an hour. But I want you to think about my church people. And if there's church people watching, you know I love you. You know what it is. You watching it for my videos. But to my church people, you have to understand that you are still mentally, psychologically, spiritually, wholeheartedly living off of a tribal consciousness that is thousands of years old. You are still living by the ways of your ancestors, and we are now reaching the age of Aquarius. This is why I say they are, as a people, we are spiritually behind. I'm going to repeat this again because I know I want to get it finished before an hour. If I don't, the ones who are enrolled and love this, they're going to watch all the way in. But I want to repeat this once again so you can understand what happened. We have people who go to church on a daily basis, Sundays, whatever, that are still praising a God that they feel is outside of themselves. That Christ is going to come. Some people still equate God and Christ as two different things. Who's going to come first, God or Christ? We have people who still feel that there's a God that punishes them for their good and punishes them for their bad, or rewards them for their good and rewards them for their bad. And if it's bad, then God punishing them. People still think like that and not realizing that they control their whole life by the power of their mind. The true God is a divine mind, and you are the co-creator of that divine mind by your mind. By the way you think, act, carry yourself, manifest, make things happen in your life, that's how God operates with you. It's a work with me, work with you type of relationship with God. And if you're not working with God for your better life, then what are we talking about here? This is what, and as we go to the Piscean age, we're going to see more of that. And we're going to see later when we hit the Aquarian age where we're about to head to. But I want people to understand this for my folks who are still going to church. Jesus that, not knowing that's not his real name. Not knowing that Jesus is to just match in a frequency level of 888. Not knowing these things. Like, what are we talking? Like, it's 2025, man. Like, this is pitiful. I'm sorry, but it's pitiful. Where are we at here? As humanity has become more conscious of our spiritual capacities, 43 minutes now, guys. Listen. As humanity has become more conscious of our spiritual capacities, we have elevated our spiritual perception of God. Our expansion of our consciousness has led us to widen our vision of our potential divine. It's a lot, guys. It really is. I really hope you guys understand this. And if you don't get it, maybe I know your grandkids will get it and your great grandkids. So maybe this ain't for this time. Maybe what I'm doing is meant to put this out here so your grandkids and your grandkids' kids will get this. Because people know this, they watch this video and they still go on about talking about they got depression and they stressed out. As humans, as humanity has become more conscious of our spiritual capacities, we have elevated our spiritual perception of God. Our expansion of consciousness has led us to widen our vision of our own potential divinity, power, and humanity. Yet we still rarely overcome the traits of tribal consciousness. That's what I was saying. Those parts of ourselves that respond instantly rather than reasonably or symbolically, these tendencies have serious effects on our health. Jealousy, greed, the desire for vengeance, and other lower chakra issues remain among the leading emotional factors contributing to the loss of health and our ability to heal. Regardless of how much we know we should not be jealous of others, we still cannot halt the gut sensations generated by jealousy. Reason, a skill aligned to our sixth chakra, is often no match for our tribal consciousness function. Moreover, we remain deeply enmeshed. We remain deeply enmeshed in the belief that to speak with God and be heard by God, we must be engaged in sacrificial dialogue. A woman at one of my workshops, the author says, revealed that upon learning that her daughter had cancer, she gave up meat and certain other food products, hoping that these actions would inspire God to heal her daughter. Wow. This woman believed that intercessory prayer alone would not be strong enough action. She had to take physical action to give prayer enough backbone. Tribal consciousness requires physical action, and this woman's entire identity rested on her role as a matriarch. She prayed publicly, representing the entire family, becoming their unified voice as a tribal leader, even admitting that she had to be one to offer sacrifice since none of the other family members were strong enough to maintain the discipline. The power of a woman. A biological tribe's duty include acceptance of all new members and educating them in the skills of survival according to the tribe's standards law. Let me read that again. A biological tribe's duty include acceptance of all new members and educating them in the skills of survival according to the tribe's standards and laws. Tribal control of life. Tribal control of life in the external world for physical and financial survival is necessary. Lessons about responsibility are an essential part of preparing to live a successful adult life. Yet we need to learn to distinguish the good parts from the bad in our tribal heritage. The process of spiritual development challenges us to retain the tribal influences that are positive and to discard those that are not. All types of tribes, including business and social organization, are governed by a code of education for survival, however diluted it may be. However diluted it may be. Unlike biological tribes, social groups do not have a responsibility to accept new members unconditionally, but they do have an unwritten ethical commitment to introduce new members to the codes and skills essential for that particular group's survival. And for survival within the group, these skills often include codes of dress and behavior and a respect for hierarchy. If a new member does not adapt that proper behavior, he or she remains an outsider and eventually leaves in search of another tribe in which to become assimilated and share power. There are positive aspects to tribal power apart from basic survival. Tribal power cultivates loyalty, ethics, and a code of honor, and we see the danger to our society when those are lacking. So many children today are completely dysfunctional because their family had no ethical strength and no honor. Did you hear that? That is a bar and a half. Let's read that again. And I know what I'm going to call this presentation now. These are positive aspects to tribal power apart from basic survival. Tribal power cultivates loyalty, ethics, and a code. And I told my son's 12, and I told my son this, it's good and bad when, when you got kids and when they're going to school, you want them to learn, but at the same time, you don't want them hanging around the wrong crew and being influenced or being the influencer. But there's also positive aspects to your kids hanging around homeboys or homegirls. They learn the social skills. They learn the survival skills. It builds character and even, the ego to a certain extent. So I totally agree with that. But let's keep on going. We'll read that part again. There are positive aspects to tribal power apart from basic survival. Tribal power cultivates loyalty, ethics, and a code of honor, and we see the danger to our society when those are lacking. So many children today are completely dysfunctional because their family has no ethical strength and no honor. They don't know where to turn, so they join gangs in some cases, because at least the gang offers ritual and an honor code of sorts. The danger in tribal loyalty, of course, is that it has to be attached to the tribe at all times. Loyalty to oneself is a very low priority on the tribal list. No matter how much we like to think we have evolved beyond tribal consciousness, strong elements of it are still at work within all of us. I'm going to read that again. And I thank you for your patience because we're getting at the end here. Really getting at the end. But as we do, for those who have watched in entirety, we are understanding the age of Aries was the age of tribal power, tribal structure. We just left an age where it was worshiping this god, worshiping this goddess, worshiping this statue, worshiping this statue. Now, human sacrifice, animal sacrifice. Now, because we have left that age of Taurus and hit that age of Aries, now there's a sense of tribal power and everything that comes with that. So let's keep on going. No matter how much we like to think we have evolved beyond tribal consciousness, family, strong elements of it are still at work with us, at work within us, all of us. Once again, no matter how much we like to think we have evolved beyond tribal consciousness, strong elements of it are still at work within all of us. The author says, I have taken the same vow most of you probably have at some time. And I quote, I would never be like my so-and-so. In my case, it was my grandmother. She was the sort of a person who, when you went to her home for dinner, wouldn't let you serve yourself. She served you. And she always put a huge mound of food on your plate. After you did the right thing and ate it all, she would put another mountain of food there. When the family started to moan collectively, loosen their belts and complain that they couldn't eat anymore, Grandma would invariably say, after all I cooked for you today. I can do a presentation on that alone, but we're almost finished and I don't want to go off track. So the author says, so I vowed I would never ever be like her. But some years back when I was living in New Hampshire, the author says, one night I had some friends over for dinner. As the meal wound down, I actually heard myself say, is that all you're going to eat? After all, I'll cook for you today? She was saying the same words her grandmother used to say to her. The words were barely out of my mouth when I excused myself, went in the kitchen and called my mother. And she told her mother, I quote, I'm possessed, she said, and told her what had happened and what I had said without thinking. My mother listened calmly and then asked, did you actually put more food on the plate? No, I said, I didn't do that. Okay then, Mom said, you're not possessed. She's just in your kitchen. Woo. We should not underestimate the health consequences. We should not underestimate the health consequences of maintaining tribal consciousness. I really hope you are understanding, especially my black folk. And this, no, you know what? Black folks, melanated folks. Yeah, I'm going to take it there. I'm going to take it there today. Because we link, there's so many of you that, listen, you feel like you gotta please your mom or your grandmom, or you gotta please your dad or whatnot. And if they're not pleased, then you feel like you have failed. And for some of you, you have did that your whole life to the point where everything evolves around what your parents think, so what your mom thinks, and you can't evolve. You can't evolve that way. And this is what this book is telling you. This is called tribal consciousness. In other presentations, I call this the family entity, because yes, there is something called a family entity. So the black sheep is for a reason. Once you come to Christ consciousness, you now have the power to go back to that same family and start healing people if they choose to be healed. But you must first find your own way. There's a good and not good aspect to tribal consciousness. So let's keep on reading. Once again, we should not underestimate the health consequences of maintaining tribal consciousness. Symbolically, the immune system does hold up. I want to make sure I slow this down. We're almost done. We should not underestimate the health consequences of maintaining tribal consciousness. Symbolically, the immune system does for the physical body precisely what tribal power does for the group. It protects it from potential harmful external influences. Since tribalism resonates with our first, second, and third chakras, the stress generated in our systems through superstitious fear patterns also attacks the physical systems that are connected to these three chakras. Our immune system, sexual organs, colon, pancreas, gallbladder, liver, legs, and thighs. Yet, a healthy identification and relationship with your family of origin can be a source of emotional and psychological strength and a firm base for the next level of personal power and identification. Now, it's still going to be less than an hour, but I'm going to repeat this, not just for my melanated people, but for every color who feel like they owe their family something, like you are still stuck with your family and you can't evolve. It's not your family's fault. It's your fault for feeling like you need their validation, like you need their acceptance. You heard it from me, but now you're also hearing from this amazing author, Carolyn Miss. I hope I'm saying her last name right, Myss. You're also hearing from this amazing lady as well. You're giving everybody your power except you. So then when you do that, your health starts messing up. Don't believe me? Say less one more time, and we're going to end it right here. Thank you. Tell a friend to listen. Tell a friend to tune in. I'm not going nowhere. I promise you that. We should not underestimate the health consequences of maintaining tribal consciousness. Symbolically, the immune system does for the physical body precisely what tribal power does for the group. It protects from potential harmful external influences. Since tribalism resonates with our first, second, and third chakras, the stress generated in our systems through superstitious fear patterns also attacks the physical systems that are connected to these chakras. Our immune system, sexual organs, colon, pancreas, gallbladder, liver, legs, and thighs, all that. Yet, a healthy identification and relationship with your family of origin can be a source of emotional and psychological strength and a firm base for the next level of personal power and identification. Now, family, I thank you for joining me on this amazing field trip. We are now done. I hope you guys had a great field trip. We just visited the Aries, the age of the Aries, when our ancestors left from the human sacrifices of Taurus and the animal sacrifices to now forming a tribal consciousness. We're about to stop into Pisces. This is where we're at now. We're leaving. We're leaving this in real time, guys. So next video, we're hitting Pisces. We're going to see the beginning of the mind that made the civilization and this consciousness that we are now seeing now. So I thank you for watching. Thank you for rocking with the ordained metaphysical minister. Cosmic Christ University is going to be one of the greatest universities, and you are making it that. So I thank you so much in advance. Continue to know your strength and know your power. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Peace and love.